Guys, it's your average 90s rock enjoyer, Stephen Lynn, back with another case study. Today we're going to look at Them Bones by Alice in Chains. We're going to break down all the guitar, bass, drums, and vocal parts. This is my favorite Alice in Chains song. It starts off with a bang, it's short and to the point, it never lets up intensity, the riffs are heavy, the lyrics are great, it has classic Alice in Chains vocal harmonies, and it has my favorite Jerry Cantrell guitar solo. Them Bones is the first track on Alice in Chains' second album, Dirt, released in 1992. It's an incredibly audacious track to choose as the opening to an album. You put the record on and the first thing you hear is a guy yelling, "Ah!" and these heavy chromatic rising riffs in an odd time signature. There are a lot of audacious things about Dirt, musically, vocally, and lyrically, and Them Bones lets you know right away what you're in for. The lineup on this track, of course, is Lane Staley on lead vocals, Jerry Cantrell on guitar and backing vocals, Mike Starr on bass, and Sean Kinney on drums, and produced by Dave Jordan. It's in the key of D-flat minor, tempo around 164 BPM, I think. It's in 7/4 time in the verses and 4/4 in the chorus. Both the music and lyrics were written by Jerry Cantrell. Alice in Chains uses E-flat standard as their normal guitar tuning, which is just tuning every string down a half step from the normal E standard tuning. This song is in the drop D equivalent of that. So we have D-flat, A-flat, D-flat, G-flat, B-flat, and E-flat. This makes it so the lowest three strings form a power chord when you play them open. This is a very common tuning in hard rock and metal. The song is in the key of D-flat minor, but from here on out I'm going to refer to these notes as if we were in regular drop D tuning. So any D-flat note I'll be referring to as D, any A-flat I'll refer to as A, etc., just for convenience. So I'll be referring to this song as if it's in D minor. The first note of the song is this D7 sharp 9 chord. This is sometimes called the Hendrix chord because it's used pretty prominently in some of his songs, Purple Haze for instance. We have D here at the 5th fret of the A string. We have F sharp at the 4th fret of the D string. We have C at the 5th fret of the G string. And we have F at the 6th fret of the B string. The high string will be muted. This chord has both a major third, the F sharp, and a minor third, F, which is called the sharp 9 in this case. Combination of the major and minor third is a very bluesy sound. We hit this chord once and we put some vibrato on it. The vibrato is going to be very important to nailing the vibe of Jerry Cantrell's playing. It's not enough just to play the right notes, you have to play them with the right feeling as well. So here's the riff with no vibrato. And here's with vibrato. It sounds much more chaotic, much more dissonant when you add vibrato to it. And I'm just shaking my whole hand here, basically. After that, we do chromatic power chords from D up to F at the 3rd fret here. So like I mentioned, the lowest three strings are going to form a power chord when you play them. So we'll play all three of those strings, and then we'll bar at the 1st fret, D sharp here, then at the 2nd fret, E, and the 3rd fret, F. Now, I typically play this with my first finger for the first two chords, and then my middle finger for the F. Jerry Cantrell plays this with a different finger for each chord. Doesn't really matter what finger you use. During the intro and the interlude versions of this riff were palm muting, so I have my palm rested here at the bridge. The more metal folks might be inclined to play this riff with all downstrokes. And that sounds great, but Jerry Cantrell definitely plays it with alternate tuning. We're hitting the D7 sharp 9 chord once, and then the open D power chord twice, and then the D sharp 4 times, the E 3 times, and the F once. A few times during these sections, he goes up an octave and plays this. So here I'm basically playing the top two notes of that D7 sharp 9 chord up an octave. So I have C at the 17th fret of the G string and F at the 18th fret of the B string. I'm just hitting those two notes. I mean, you can hit the open low strings too. Put a ton of vibrato on it. He usually does that on the third time, I think. The riff during the verses is very similar, but we're not palm muting. We're just going to let each chord ring out. And instead of playing the D7 sharp 9 chord, we're going to play this open D power chord here with our index finger on the 2nd fret of the G string and our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B string. We're going to mute the high E string. We're going to hit all 5 of the lowest strings and then lift up those 2 fretted notes to let the lowest strings continue to ring out. So it sounds like this. On the record, it sort of sounds like he's hitting the high strings and then hitting the low strings after that. And I see people play it that way sometimes, but from watching Jerry play, I'm pretty sure he's hitting all 5 of these strings and then just releasing the 2 fretted notes so that the low strings ring out. And of course that chromatic walk-up is exactly the same, but we're just letting each chord ring out. The chorus switches to 4/4 time, and we go up to this B flat power chord here at the 8th fret. Again, we're just barring the lowest 3 strings. I like to use my index finger for this because the next note is a half step down of this A here at the 7th fret. And if you use those fingers, then your ring finger will be free to go here on the 9th fret for this little riff that he plays over the A chord. We're sliding from the 9th fret to the 11th fret, the notes B to C sharp, and then hitting the 9th fret of the G string, which is an E, and those are the 3rd and the 5th in an A chord. Then we go to a power chord here at the 10th fret, C. And then just go down by half step. So we go down to the 9th fret, and then back to the 8th fret, that B flat. So the whole chorus. There's a variation of this at the end of the song when the chorus repeats 3 times, where it walks down chromatically to the 7th fret A here before starting over. So I'll play the repeated chorus for you. Slowly. And the song ends on the B flat. Those are all the rhythm guitar parts in the song. The intro riff with the palm muting is played in between the chorus and the verses and during the solo. The solo repeats the same verse-chorus structure, and then there's a third verse and the repeated chorus at the end, and that's all the rhythm guitar parts. So let's take a look at the solo. The first phrase of the solo begins with a pedal tone lick from the note D here at the 5th fret of the A string. Again, we're in D minor, and this opening lick is going to be using the D blues scale, which is like your minor pentatonic scale with a sharp 4 or flat 5 added to it. So we're adding in this G sharp here. It's a very commonly taught scale that you should check out if you haven't learned it already. To begin, we hammer on from the note C here at the 3rd fret of the A string up to the 5th fret D, and we pick the D 2 more times, and then we begin to walk up that blues scale with the pedal tone here. So we play the F at the 3rd fret of the D string, and then the 5th fret G, the 6th fret G sharp, and then back down to the G, back to the F, so in between each of those notes, obviously we go back to this note D here at the 5th fret of the A string. That's what's meant by the term pedal tone, is we're constantly going to bounce back to this note, but we're going to play other notes in between. Now you can play that G on the 5th fret of the D string by rolling your ring finger down, or you can use your pinky for it. I find it a little bit easier to do the kind of little rolling technique with my ring finger, but if you don't have that technique down yet, you can use your pinky to play that. After we play that F, then we go back to the D, back down to C at the 3rd fret of the A string. On that last F, we're going to do a little bit of a bend. We're not going to bend it all the way up to the next note. We're just going to pull on it a little bit. It's going to be a little bit sharp of the minor third, but not quite all the way up to the major third. Again, this is a very bluesy thing, just like we had the major third and the minor third in that opening chord. Here we're bending the minor third up, but not quite to the major third. And that's a very bluesy sound as well. And then we have D, C at the 3rd fret of the A string, back to the D, and then this next note, it's hard to hear on the record, but in the isolated track, I'm pretty sure he plays it. He goes back to that C before doing this slide. Again, that's a very quiet note. It's very muted, but I'm pretty sure he's playing it. And then we slide up from the 5th fret of the D string to the 7th fret of the D string, the notes G to A, and then the last note of this phrase is the 5th fret of the G string, the note C. Now I am palm muting this a little bit, and I'm playing this lick with all downstrokes right now, but I don't always play it with all downstrokes. This lends itself to alternate picking really well too. I'm not sure exactly how Jerry plays it, but you can do it either way. The next phrase moves up to the first position of the D minor pentatonic scale here at the 10th fret. We're going to bend the 12th fret of the G string, the note G, up to A, release it back down, and then bend again. My natural inclination when holding out a bent note like this is to add vibrato to it, but Jerry Cantrell does not. He plays this note straight. Then we play a very common rock lick, where we're again bending up that 12th fret on the G string, releasing it back down, pulling off to the 10th fret, and then landing here on the 12th fret, the note D. Very slowly. And we're going to put a ton of vibrato. We're going to play a ton of vibrato pretty much anywhere we can here in this solo, other than that bent note. Again, this is a really common lick. It's worth practicing on its own. You hear it all the time. You hear it a lot in Jimmy Page's playing. It's a very common pentatonic lick. Then we're going to descend down the D minor pentatonic scale here with this little hammer-on lick, starting with the 10th fret, note C here on the D string, hammering onto the 12, pulling back off to the 10, playing the 12th fret of the A string, pulling off to the 10th fret, and then sliding down to the 8th. And then this phrase ends by bending that 10th fret, the note G, up to the A, releasing back down, and then pulling back off to that 8th fret, the note F here. So the whole phrase, full speed. And slowly. The next phrase is super cool. We're going to start here at the 12th fret of the D string. This is the note E. So this is the major second. So this is the first note that we get that's not from the D blues scale. So in this section, he starts to add in notes from the natural minor scale. You can play this lick without changing position. So before we were here in the first position of the D minor pentatonic scale, you can play that lick here. But I've seen Jerry play it up here at the 12th fret, so that's what I'm going to show you now. So we're playing the E here at the 14th fret of the D string, and then going up to the C on the 17th fret of the G string, picking that 3 times, and then we play this little half step lick here at the 15th fret of the G string and the 14th fret. So we're going to pick the 15th fret, this is no B flat, and then pull off to the 14th fret, A, and then hammer on again. And the B flat here is the minor 6th. That's why this is now the natural minor scale, because we've added in the 2 notes that aren't included in the minor pentatonic. So we have the 2nd and the 6th, and then we finish by doing a little D minor arpeggio, playing the 15th fret of the D strings, note F, and then the 17th fret of the A, which is the note D. The next phrase is this little scalar walk up, starting on the 15th fret of the lowest string. This is the note F. So we're going to play F, G on the 17th fret. Then we're going to do a quick shift down to the 12th fret of the A string. And then play the 15th fret of the A. This is all minor pentatonic so far. And then the 12th fret of the D. And then the 14th fret, 15th fret. And then on the G string, we play those same frets. We play 14 and 15. That's going to be A and B flat. So it starts off just walking up the minor pentatonic until it gets here. And then we play the second, third, fifth, and sixth, and then back to the fifth. Again, that's a pretty cool choice of notes there. And I'm palm muting on these lowest strings. When I'm playing these low notes, I'm palm muting, and then once I get up to about this note D here, 12th fret of the D string, I stop palm muting. To finish off the first half of the solo here, we're at the 14th fret of the G string, the note A. We're going to play A, B flat at the 15th fret, and then the 17th fret, the note C, we're going to bend up a whole step to the note D. Then we're going to release that down and play the C to 17th fret. Back to the B flat, back to C, to B flat, to A, then we shift down to the 12th fret of the G string here, go back up to the A at the 14th fret, and then we bend that A all the way up to the note C, so that's a minor third bend. All the other bends in the solo so far have been whole step bends. This one is a little bit bigger, right? It's 1 fret higher than a whole step. The next half of the solo is on a separate track. It's actually double tracked, and you hear this bent note ringing out while that solo is going on, but eventually he does release it down back to the A. And then on this track also, there is a whammy bar dive bomb that happens while the other guitar solo is going on. I don't have a whammy bar on this, so I'm not going to do it, but I'm pretty sure he's just playing his A string here and then just doing a big dive bomb. So here's the first half of the solo. I'll play it at normal speed and then I'll play it again slowly. And slow. Like I said, the next half of the solo is a separate take, and you can hear on the stems that it's actually double tracked, meaning that he just recorded the same solo twice. To start this lick, we're going to be in the sort of second position of the D minor pentatonic scale here. We're going to bend the 15th fret, so note G. We're going to bend that up a whole step. Then we're going to release the bend and play that 15th fret again. Go down to the 13th fret, the note F. And then the note D here on the 15th fret of the B string. Back to F. Then we go back to the D on the 15th fret of the B string. Bend that up a whole step. And release it back down. Then we're going to shift positions up to sort of the 4th position of the D minor pentatonic scale here. We're going to start by bending the 20th fret of the E string up a whole step. This is note C to D. Then we'll release the bend and play the 20th fret. Go back down to the 18th fret and the 17th fret. These are the notes B flat and A. Then we play the 20th fret of the B string, 17th fret of the E, then bend the 20th fret of the B string, release the bend and play the 20th fret, down to the 18th fret, then the 19th fret of the G string, which is our root note D here, then back to the 18th fret of the B, and land on that 19th fret of the G string. This next phrase is also a really common minor pentatonic lick that's worth practicing on its own, and you're going to hear it in tons of other solos. We have the 18th fret of the B string here. This is the note F. We're going to hammer on to the 20th fret with our ring finger, and then pull off back to that note, and then play the 19th fret of the G string, which is our root note D. And we just do that 7 times. It's quite fast, but it's not hard to play. That's why it's such a common lick. Very slowly, it sounds like this. And you can play that all over the D minor pentatonic scale. In fact, it might be a little easier to play that lick here at the 15th fret of the B string, and then 13 and 15 on the E. But you can play it all over the minor pentatonic scale. It sounds super cool. It sounds like I'm playing like a bunch of really fast notes. I mean, I am playing fast notes, but this is not a difficult lick to play. Just slow it down. And you can slowly build up speed. It's a very simple lick once you get it down. So we just repeat that lick 7 times, like I said, and then on the last time we're going to bend up that 20th fret up a whole step. And then release, play the 20th fret, down to the 18th fret, 19th fret of the G, 18 of the B string again, and land on this 19th fret note D. This is our root note here, so... So for the last phrase of the solo, we're going to shift back down to this first position of the D minor pentatonic scale. And at this time, he turns a wah-wah pedal on. Now, he might have that wah-wah pedal on for the entire solo. Kind of sounds like he does, but just set in one position, not moving. Like you just set the wah-wah pedal, don't touch it, play the solo, and then here on this final lick, he actually puts his foot on it to do the sweep. And again, first position of the D minor pentatonic scale, we're going to bend that 12th fret of the G string up a whole step. Then we're going to pick that 6 times. It's a very tight pick, right? I'm not playing... I'm doing all downstrokes. I'm kind of palm muting it a little bit. I'm really digging in. And then we do that same, like, release, pull off, and then here to the 12th fret of the D, which is the note D, of course. Then we go back to this F, the 10th fret of the G string, and again we're going to bend it up a little bit. The final lick, we're hammering on from the 10th fret of the D string, the note C, to D here. Picking that 2 more times. Picking that 3 more times, actually. Back down to the C. And the last note is the 12th fret of the A string. Now I'll play the full second half of the solo at full speed and then again slowly. Alright, now I'll put everything together. I'll play the full solo, both halves, just in one take here. I'll play it full speed and then I'll do it slowly. Late great Mike Starr had a lot of creative, inventive, and melodic bass lines in a lot of Alice in Chains' songs, but this one is very simple. It just follows the guitar except for one difference. The most important part is going to be the tone. Let's take a listen to the isolated bass track. So as you can hear, it's very distorted. There's probably a chorus on there. It sounds like it might be 2 tracks, a bass DI, and then the distorted amp with the chorus on it. This is a pretty common production technique for recording bass because when you add distortion to the bass, you lose a lot of the low end. So including a DI track in there keeps the low end of the bass, but allows you to have a very aggressive sound. He starts off by playing this D here at the 5th fret of the A string, then to the open low D string, and then just doing that chromatic walk up from the 1st fret, 2nd fret E, 3rd fret F here. You're going to play the high D 1 time, the low D 2 times, 4 times on the D sharp, 3 times on the E, 1 time on the F. But the difference between this and the guitar part is that he alternates between that high D and a C here at the 3rd fret of the A string. Every other time he goes to that C there. So even though the guitar part is playing a D chord, he's playing a C under it, and that adds to the sort of chaotic nature of the song. And he continues to do that picking pattern into the verses as well. He plays that in every section. So unlike the guitar where he has the palm muting part and then the ringing chords, Mike Starr is just picking the entire time. And then the chorus part is a B flat, of course. You can play it here at the 1st fret of the A string, and then down to the open A, and then the 3rd fret here, which is the note C, and then down to B at the 2nd fret, and ending on the B flat here at the 1st fret. But it sounds like he's probably playing it up here at the 8th fret. Because I can kind of hear that slide into it. So that's going to be 8th fret B flat, 7th fret A, up to the 10th fret C, 9th fret B, and then B flat here at the 8. Mike Starr didn't always play with a pick. Sometimes he used his fingers. On this track, I'm almost positive that he is using a pick. It's a very aggressive sound, and it sounds like he's almost strumming the strings, you know? It's not really an effect you can get when you just play with your fingers. All right, let's take a listen to the isolated vocal track. So that at the beginning is a high A, and again, this is tuned down a half step, so it's actually A flat, but I'm going to be referring to everything in the key of D here. So he's hitting an A, and obviously there's a ton of delay on there. I believe. So the verse harmonies here are a perfect 4th. We have one person, I believe it's Jerry, singing the lower part, although Lane might be singing both parts, singing an A here, and then the higher part is a 4th above it, a D. That's a really common vocal harmony in Alice in Chains music. They sing 4ths and 5ths a lot. It gives kind of that eerie sound that they're known for. You'll hear 4ths and 5ths in this. You'll hear them in Wood and Angry Chair and all kinds of other songs. Tons of songs use 4ths and 5ths. Them bones are me. So all these notes are just from the D minor pentatonic scale here. They just go up a minor 3rd on that harmony. We have A, G, F, and D. That's all minor pentatonic there. Some say we're born into the grave. You can hear that it's double tracked, and you can also hear that the harmonies are not perfectly tight. They're not singing perfectly in tune. I feel so alone, gonna end up a big old pile of them bones. The chorus switches to harmonic minor for a second. That's the lower part, Jerry Cantrell's part. He's singing D, C sharp, D, and E. So he's singing that C sharp over the A chord, which is going to be the major 3rd in the A. And then it switches back just to the D minor pentatonic. Goes up to F, minor third, back to root, minor seventh this time, and then just goes down the minor pentatonic scale. The harmony part, he's singing a fifth above to start, so he's singing this A up here above the D, and then he goes down to a G, and then he continues to go down the D minor pentatonic scale after that as well. Here's the original drum stems. So obviously he's playing that do-do-da, do-do-do-da. He's playing that triplet on the kick drum there. That goes along with what the guitar is playing. But the interesting thing is, once the verse starts here, he stops playing that triplet pattern and he plays a more sparse kick drum pattern. He just plays one hit on the first beat, and then after that he just plays two hits with the kick drum. I don't know why he chose to do that. Maybe it's because it was hard to play that triplet. I don't think that would be the reason. My guess is it was just a way to kind of open the track up a little bit, make more space, make it a little bit more sparse when the vocals are going on. The bass just keeps playing that the entire track, so he could have played the kick drum that way along with the bass, but he chose not to for whatever reason. Here's a verse. And then here on the chorus, he switches over to playing the ride. So he was playing the open hi-hat. Then he switches over to the ride. He starts playing a complicated ride pattern here. Backbeat remains basically the same. Back to the triplet. One thing I want to point out is that this is not the tightest drum take in the world. It's kind of loose. Not all of the hits are directly on beat. That's totally fine. It sounds like a human being playing. One thing that I think has changed a lot about Alice in Chains' more modern music is that the drums sound a lot more robotic to me. They almost sound like they're just programmed drums. I'm sure they're using a lot of samples. This drum track obviously has a drum sample on the snare. I mean, but the newest Alice in Chains stuff sounds like it could all be just programmed drums. I still think Sean Kinney is a great drummer, and the parts in the songs are good, but I don't hear a lot of stuff like this. Like, I'm going to play this fill that's here at the end of the song, and I don't really hear this kind of stuff in Sean Kinney's playing anymore. I mean, that's not the coolest drum fill in the world, but it has this kind of jagged feel to it, and it's a very human drum fill. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I did do an approximation of it with the programmed drums. It doesn't sound nearly as cool. That being said, again, I still think Sean Kinney is a fantastic drummer, but these kind of fills I associate more so with the early Alice in Chains stuff, and the newer stuff is a little bit more robotic to me. Alright guys, this has been a long video. Hopefully it's a thorough enough breakdown of this track. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something about how Alice in Chains composes their music. I'm going to play my cover for you now. You can watch me play all the parts and follow along. Please like and subscribe, comment about what songs you want to deep dive into next. Check out my other channel for original music, blah blah blah. God bless.